Emotional eating and behavior change. In this presentation, we will discuss how to assess if emotional eating impacts your weight or increases your risk for certain health problems. We will discuss how to break an unhealthy eating cycle and identify key differences between physical hunger and emotional hunger. Even if you do not struggle with weight, learning how to change unhealthy behaviors is important using the behavior change process. What is emotional eating? Emotional eating can be defined as turning to food for comfort or as a reward rather than for true hunger. Emotional eating, sometimes referred to as head hunger, is a common way for individuals to cope with strong feelings and try to suppress them. This often leads to overeating foods that are usually higher in calories, fat, sugar, and salt. Long-term results of emotional eating can include increased risk of chronic health problems as well as weight gain. To determine whether or not you may be an emotional eater, ask yourself the following questions. Do I eat more when I feel stressed, sad, or bored? Do I eat when I'm not hungry or even after I feel full? Do I eat to feel better about myself or a situation? Do I reward myself with food? If you answered yes to one or more of these questions, it's likely that you've been affected by emotional eating at some point in your life. We try to satisfy several emotions through food and eating. These emotions include, but are not limited to, sadness, anxiety, stress, anger, boredom, and sometimes we don't think about positive emotions that may lead to emotional eating, such as excitement or celebration. In the short term, food can help ease and blunt these very strong emotions that are often uncomfortable. Besides strong emotions, there are other triggers that may lead to emotional eating. The mere presence of food can trigger us to want to eat, whether or not we are feeling true physical hunger. Social gatherings almost always include food. There is a social pressure to be eating when others are eating. We want to eat when we see others eating food that looks good. Childhood experiences also come into play. It's possible you were rewarded for good behavior or good grades with food, like ice cream, or maybe had a bad behavior punished with the withholding of food. For example, you'll go to bed without dinner because you fought with your sibling. Memories of these instances may be a trigger for some to engage in emotional eating. Food is also very nostalgic. It may be hard to say no to your favorite cookies that your grandmother made for you each time you visited. The way we use food in our lives can be summarized in two ways. Firstly, it's used to provide energy that our bodies need on a daily basis. We absolutely need and require food each and every day. Without food, we would not survive. On the other hand, food is also used as a coping mechanism for many people. When we feel negative or strong emotions, we are drawn to food to seek comfort and dull our strong, uncomfortable emotions. This can cause us to enter into what we call an emotional eating cycle. While food should primarily be used to fuel the body with good nutrients, it's also important to remember that food is and can be used for enjoyment, to connect with others, and to celebrate different backgrounds and cultures. We are allowed to enjoy our favorite foods in moderation, but remember there's a fine line between enjoying in moderation and engaging in out-of-control emotional eating. This is a depiction of the emotional eating cycle. It starts at the top where we experience an emotion. Maybe we are feeling stressed due to health problems or are anxious due to an upcoming meeting. We don't like what we're feeling, so we seek comfort. Often, we will turn to a trigger food. This is usually something of high value: chips, cookies, candy. We do feel a sense of comfort when we are eating our food of choice. However, after we are finished, we are often feeling regretful or guilty that we made the food choice that we did. What is the end result of this? we are feeling the same emotion that we felt at the beginning of the cycle, and we are additionally feeling guilty or shameful. Overall, we feel worse than before. This guilt can lead to another emotion, and this restarts the cycle. If we are regularly turning to food when we feel a strong emotion, this can become a habit that is hard to break. We don't learn healthy ways to deal with our emotions, and food becomes one of our only outlets. If this is repeated over the course of months or years, we put ourselves at a greater risk of weight gain and potential health problems. Over time, we feel increasingly powerless over food, and we feel that it is controlling us and our behavior. We must learn healthy ways to deal with emotions and break ourselves out of this cycle that does not help us meet our goals. Next, we will discuss some tips to help control emotional eating. First, we can assess if we are physically hungry or emotionally hungry. We can find a healthy substitute for eating, and we can make sure our environment is set up for success. A tool we can use is this 10-point hunger scale shown at the bottom of the screen. Referring to this scale can help determine your level of physical hunger. If you are at a 3 or below, you're feeling quite hungry. If you are at a 6 or above, you're feeling satisfied or full. Ideally, we should remain between a 3 and a 6 at all times to avoid getting to either extreme end of the scale, either a 1, which means you are starving, or a 10, you are so full that you feel sick. Use the scale to pay attention to how your hunger progresses. Physical hunger is more gradual, and emotional hunger is very sudden. Here we will define several characteristics of both physical hunger and emotional or head hunger. Physical hunger is gradual. Our hunger cues progress slowly and build on each other. We are often open to eating many different foods when we are hungry. It is patient. We can patiently wait for food to be prepared. It occurs out of a physical need for fuel and is based in the stomach. Our body sends us signals that we need nutrients. It involves making a conscious choice. We have an awareness of what we are eating. We are able to stop when we are full. Just like our stomach tells us that we are hungry, it also sends signals to the brain to let us know that we are full and it's time to stop. We realize eating is necessary. When eating out of a physical need, we feel better once we have eaten. On the other hand, emotional hunger is typically sudden. We get an instant desire to eat. It's usually for a specific food. Not just any food will satisfy our emotional hunger. It is based in the mind. Our head is sending us a message that we need to eat, regardless of our physical hunger signals. It is urgent. We can't wait very long to get something to eat. Emotional hunger or head hunger is paired with a strong emotion. Our emotions drive us to turn to food. We usually eat in an absent-minded way. We eat more than we intend to or more than we realize. We don't stop when we're full if we are eating for emotional reasons. We eat until we are full and still find room to eat something else. When we eat due to an emotion, we typically feel guilty or shameful afterwards. If we do feel that we are drawn to eat emotionally, we should assess the feeling or emotion at hand and work on a new behavior to avoid instances of emotional eating. Here are a few examples of productive behaviors that we can replace with eating. If feeling anxious, consider keeping a thought journal. If we're stressed, find ways to reduce stress. It's a little bit different for each individual, maybe taking a walk, reading, taking a bath. If we're bored, start a new craft or a project. If we're tired, if time allows, take a nap, go for a walk, just a quick stand and stretch. Find a healthy substitute to eating. One helpful approach is to create a list of activities you can do instead of emotional eating. We can also put these ideas in a jar to choose from when you are feeling a strong emotion and avoid gravitating towards food. In an instance where we are prone to emotional eating, we typically may have a difficult time choosing an activity to do. So if they're already prepared for us and all we have to do is get them out of a jar, we're more likely to put that healthy behavior into place. Doing one of these activities for a while can help create distance between you and food. Do something you enjoy for at least 20 to 30 minutes. This creates enough time and distance from the strong desire to eat. In this 20 to 30 minutes, we can make an informed decision and decide whether or not we need to eat. Activities to choose from are endless, but make sure they are things that you actually enjoy. Don't force yourself to do an activity that does not bring you joy. Another important consideration is your physical environment. We should set up our environment in a way that makes it easier for us to meet our goals. Eliminate trigger foods in your home. It's hard to stay away from foods that, when present, make us feel like we are out of control and that we cannot say no to. Don't leave tempting foods sitting out where it's at arm's reach at all times. We may not be thinking about chips or candy all day, but when we see one of these things sitting out, that is a visual trigger to want to eat it. In order to minimize cravings, we should plan out balanced meals and snacks that have all the components that we need for satisfaction. This includes protein, fiber, a little bit of fat, and adequate hydration. If we are lacking in one of these components, we will be left feeling hungry soon after meals and feel overall unsatisfied. This increases the risk of giving in to that head hunger. These tools can help us break this emotional eating cycle, or breaking the cycle with behavior change. It takes some thought and effort, but we can regain control over food. Rather than seeking food for comfort, we replace eating for another healthy behavior. We need to directly address the emotion that we are feeling and act based on that emotion. If we are bored, as the example suggests, maybe engage in a behavior that will occupy your time and make you feel good. In this instance, maybe work on a project. Once that project is completed, we're feeling productive and pretty proud of ourselves. Keep in mind, we will not be able to completely eliminate instances of emotional eating overnight. This is something that takes time, practice, and a little bit of self-forgiveness. It takes a number of weeks to develop a new habit, so stick with it. In conclusion, emotional hunger can never be satisfied with food in the long term. Recognize physical versus emotional hunger. Utilize the hunger scale and remember those key differences between the two types. Develop healthy coping skills. Find activities you enjoy that do not involve food. Start small and practice. Any change, even a small one, is a step in the right direction. Lastly, seek support or professional help if emotional eating is impacting your weight and your health and you are struggling to make changes. Eat to fuel your body, not feed your emotions.